Hello folks, and welcome to the latest Accounting Bites broadcast by me, Kevin Reid. It's wonderful to have you back on for what is my second broadcast as a freelance journalist. And as I said to you, for any of the brave and hardy souls that watched last week, I'm trying to get out and about and speak to interesting people having an impact on the accounting industry. I'm delighted to say that you don't have to stare at my face for the next 5 minutes or so with one of my famous monologues. I'm delighted to welcome Chris Merry. Chris Merry is CEO of Ipes. Chris is also a former boss over at RSM Tenon, and so we're going to have a chat to him very briefly about that without harking back too much, and then discuss what Ipes is and how it kind of impacts the private equity world. So I'm going to flip the camera. And we now have Chris in front of us. Chris, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So as I said, Chris, we're not going to rattle on about RSM Tenon your time there. But in recent weeks and months, we've seen HG Capital, a very big private equity business, launch Cogitor Group, and Cogitor is an amalgam of a number of accountancy firms, and they have obviously Mr. John Connolly heading that up as chairman, and they've been speaking about world domination, perhaps not world domination, but definitely a growth plan. Coming from Tenon, which was a listed consolidator, what do you think about consolidator models, and particularly those that were listed? Is that it? Is that time done?
I think the consolidator model is a perfectly valid model. RSM Tenon was the last of the listed models. It doesn't mean that the listed model can't work again in the future. I think the key thing is around strategy and execution of the strategy. The RSM, or the Tenon strategy as it was when it floated back in 2000, was a good strategy around rolling up accounting firms, finding economies of scale, running the business efficiently and delivering to clients. I think that the history shows that the execution of the strategy was the challenge. So the consolidator model, I think, absolutely can work. Whether the ownership is listed or private equity shouldn't impact that, provided the strategy is followed through. Okay,
wonderful. So we'll keep the camera on you, Chris, rather than flip it back to me. Could you give us an elevator pitch? Can you talk to us about Ipes and the work that you're doing with Adrian Gardner, who's a CFO here, and obviously the pair of you also work together at RSM Tenon?
Certainly. So Ipes is one of the leading providers of outsourced services to private equity in Europe. What that means is we provide administration to private equity funds and all the structures around a private equity fund. And our core has developed since we first started back in 1998. So our key service lines are fund administration, depository, which is service required by the Alternative Investment Fund Management Directive. We provide directors in a business line called Director Services, and more recently we have launched a service line called Investor Services, which features an online due diligence service called the ID Register. So we're basically supporting private equity funds, a specialist service to private equity funds around the back office.
Okay, and so that does include accounting services. That seems to be a big part of your business.
Yes, so about a third of what we do is accounting. So if you look back to what Ipes did when it started, administration meant doing quarterly and annual accounts for private equity funds and special purpose vehicles, moving money backwards and forwards between investors and the fund, helping with reporting for the fund to those investors, doing filings, including regulatory filings, and holding board meetings. So all of that was really captured under administration. So it's very specialised accounting. So we're producing accounts for funds, we're producing accounts and information that goes out to investors in private equity funds. But yes, about a third of what we do is under that label, accounting.
Does that make you a kind of frenemy of the accounting profession? Are you operating a service that makes you a rival to practices, or do you work with accountants in any way, shape or form?
So we employ a lot of accountants, and we help a number of people within our business to train. So we provide professional training to people who join Ipes. We make sure that we educate and train people. We work very closely with a number of the accounting firms, so all of the big four act as auditors to our clients' funds, and so we work with them, particularly at this time of year. So I guess like any outsourcer of back office services, yes, we're to an extent a firm providing accounting services and in competition, but I think because we're so specialist, we're working in a very particular field, we're only in competition with a minority. But yeah, accounting is very important to us.
One of the new offerings, we talk about digitisation a lot around accounting services. Ipes is involved in a due diligence register. Could you explain very briefly what that is, please, Chris?
Yes, so one of the key features that takes place in any private equity fund is making sure that the investors have been checked for anti-money laundering, making sure that our funds are not dealing with people who either are involved in crime or proceeds of crime, or in any way people they shouldn't admit to investing in their fund. Sorry, the process of due diligence on investors is very, very important, and it's been a core service for us. So we've recently tried to make sure we can automate that to the extent possible.
And obviously automation and digitisation, are words that are now familiar, whether it's for accountants, whether in practice or in business. We've had a question actually around the impact of Brexit upon your decisions. You're bringing all of this together, the changing political and economic landscape, further digitisation of services. Where does that sit Ipes in relation to the PE market that they serve?
I'd say first, we're a core part of the PE market, and so our fortunes and the fortunes of our clients will move in tandem. At the moment, the PE market, I think, is growing worldwide. There's about $1.4 trillion of unspent money, known as dry powder, sitting in PE funds around the world. And I think two things are driving that. First is investors needing to get a return on their money, and second, of course, the success of PE investment over the last 10 or so years. And the fund administrator, the outsourced provider, is a key part of making the PE fund manager very, very efficient. With any outsourced provider, whether it's us or the broader corporate services providers, technology is absolutely key. We're all looking for efficiencies, we're all looking to be as effective as possible, and the ID register is but one part of that. When we look at how we report and how we help our clients report, things get more complex. More money in private equity may sound like it makes life easier. Actually, investors are very demanding. Investors want very specific reporting. Investors may have different arrangements between the private equity fund and the individual fund investments. So all of that needs to be reported, and as the reporting gets more complex, technology is a natural response to help our clients with what they need to provide to their investors.
So effectively, there are opportunities, even in churn or uncertainty, digitisation, automation. It can be a really important tool for the PE industry to find some value in potential clients.
Absolutely right. And if you take the ID register, which you asked about a moment ago, due diligence has historically been pieces of paper with a solicitor or someone signing off as evidence. All of that can now be digitised. So within the ID register, someone who is the subject of due diligence can upload their documents, they can have them digitally certified, and they can make those available to anyone who needs to see them without having to search in the back room for what might be in a box.
Wonderful stuff. Well, Chris, thank you very much for that 5 minutes, and we'll flip the camera. And there we have it. So that was really nice of Chris to give us a bit more detail around Ipes, talking a bit about the accounting industry and where that's positioned, and where PE is at the moment, and how digitisation and automation affects all of us in one way, shape or form. So thank you for showing patience to watch another one of my Accounting Bites videos. I hope you've learned a bit more about Ipes as well, and I certainly have. And I'll join you again soon for the next video. Thanks.